thank you for joining us as an industry expert on this virtual event. Uh, we look,
Thank you, Arundhati. It's a pleasure to join you on this forum.
thank you. So let's start at the beginning. How have you come to do what you do?
Oh, so well, I've been at BCG now 15 years. I joined straight out of campus. So that was my first job post my MBA.
When you say campus, it's
I
IIM, right?
Yes, IIM Bangalore. That's correct.
Yeah.
And at that time, consulting sounded like an interesting profession, and it was at that time a well-paying job. So I decided to join there, and I've enjoyed my work through BCG, working across different sectors, different industries, different countries. Over the last 10, 15 years, I've probably worked across 15 different industries, maybe about 5 to 10 different countries, and so that's how I really enjoyed the diversity of the profession and what we were doing. But I would say about five, no, I would say about 8 years ago, I had moved to New York, and then had done a lot of work in the pharma space when I was in New York. And then I returned to India to help set up the pharmaceutical practice for BCG in India. And so I was part of the core team that started that. And I really found that I enjoy and love the work that I do in the pharmaceutical space. And I started to focus on that. So that's broadly how one came to BCG and then stayed in BCG, and within BCG came to, develop an interest in pharmaceuticals, and then really spent a lot of time in the space, and now happen to lead the practice on that front. Uh, I also lead recruiting for BCG. So that's the second part. We're a very large campus recruiter, particularly at the IIMs and the IITs. And I feel like the IIMs gave me a lot in terms of, a leg up and opportunities that I wouldn't have had I gone to the IIM. So I feel like I owe them a lot.
Yeah.
And this is my way to kind of be connected and stay in touch with the campuses that gave me so much. And so when the opportunity to lead recruiting at BCG came up, I just jumped at it. So
Wow.
that's how I come to do what I do.
Okay. Now, you're in a leadership role, and I'm sure you have teams across time zones and geographical areas, right?
Yeah.
So, what are a couple challenges you would face, managing these teams?
Actually, for us, it's been quite an eye opener about how easy it has been. I think what we took for granted as needing to be done when we are physically close, actually, almost all of that has been challenged. So, if I look at my work and my productivity, I don't think I have lost anything by being remote. In fact, if given that we've cut out the travel time and I have now a lot more flexibility in my day, it actually works much better as a model for us as well. But there have been, that being said, it's not all hunky dory. So I think, there are some challenges that we have faced. I think the biggest one is, just balancing home and work, right?
Yeah.
Because as you're working from home, I think the two tend to blend into each other. So it's really hard to kind of fix a work day when you're working at home, right? It's not like I leave the house for the office and then I come back in the evening and I'm in my little insulated world at that point. Here the boundaries tend to blend together. So I think I think very quickly in this work from home model, I carved out an office space for myself. So I'm in the kids study room actually. So I kicked them out and I've made this my office during the lockdown. So
Yeah.
I think that was one challenge, to be able to really bifurcate the home and work.
Right.
And then I think the second was, I think there is a little bit of comfort around when you work and people are physically together. So you tend not to be so disciplined about setting goals and
Yeah.
following up, because you're all together. And so, if I remember something needs to be done at 7 in the evening, we all are together, and I can just tell you.
Yeah.
Whereas if we are working remotely and we have different constraints, let's say someone has to teach the kids in the evening, someone has to do housework in the morning, we need to be mindful of that discipline of each other's day. And I think that was an interesting challenge that we had to figure out.
Scheduling,
The
isn't it?
last is, I think, yeah, scheduling,
Yeah.
exactly. I think the last thing which I miss the most is, just the informal connect after work,
Yeah.
right? When we go out for drinks or have dinner as a team and things like that. In our profession, we tend to travel a lot.
Mm.
And so therefore, the teams tend to be very tightly connected because you're all in a single location working with the client. And I thought that is something I miss, and we haven't got a good solve for that, to be honest.
Okay. So, what are a couple solutions you have carved out, with these challenges? How have I mean, one you've already mentioned. You hijacked your
Yeah.
children's room, and made that your office space. So that is
Yeah.
one. I for one have done a similar situation. I've hijacked actually the family room, and I've said nobody comes in here from this time to this time. So that is one solution of carving out a physical workspace and saying, do not
Mhm.
disturb.
I
What
think,
about,
look, yeah.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So there are a few things I've done which I think work very well for me. I think what we as a team have decided across all my teams is we have what is called a daily check-in. So,
Hmm.
a half an hour meeting in the morning, just quick. Okay, what are the to-dos challenges that we anticipate, or the big meetings coming up? So I think having just a daily check-in where we are all is quite, I find quite useful. The other is we now maintain a team calendar. So it is, where we all know our block off times. So, for example, between 4 and 6, I hang out with the kids. Someone else does something else. So we all know what are the common times where we can connect, and schedule stuff so that we can chat with each other. So I found that as a very useful tool, just to make sure that you can maintain some sanity in the day. And then the third thing, I think, Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I
Hmm.
think both are very, very good platforms to be able to communicate. You can brainstorm and whiteboard and things like that. So I found investing in one of those tools was very, very helpful for us as a company.
Hmm.
And then lastly, I think that those are just tools, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're easily replicable. I think the big mindset shift for me was about moving from, activity to outcomes,
yeah,
right? And then being able to delegate and leave it alone,
yeah,
right? Which I think is a real big mindset set shift, because when teams are together and you're working, you can walk by, check in on how things are going. Have we made enough progress? And you can, if I'm honest, tend to micromanage a bit, right?
yeah,
But when you're all remote and you've decided check in, check out times and all of that, you really need to manage to outcomes.
yeah.
And I think that was a big mindset shift for all of us as teams, to really think about it. Let's say Anditi, your video I think has stopped. Now it's on.
Yeah, we kind of lost each other there in the last couple seconds. Um,
Okay, where did I lose you?
Mindset transformation, activity to outcome.
Yeah, exactly. I think just avoiding the day-to-day micromanagement and setting goals and
Yeah,
then just managing to those goals
yeah,
is important. It also then, puts pressure on you as a leader to ensure you set the right goals,
yeah.
right? Because, if you get that wrong, then, the pivot time is very little. So I think that was a big mindset shift for me.
Right. So, how many teams do you manage currently? And is it across the globe? Are your teams across the globe or within the same time
Actually,
zone?
most of my teams are in India. I
Okay.
have two teams specifically that are Asia based,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say I have too many global,
Okay.
teams that I manage. I'm part of a set of global teams, but our project teams are typically local. So I would
Okay.
say, I have about 5 teams that I manage plus the recruiting team.
Okay.
Plus.
Uh, so you found that it is essential to actually schedule or block out times for both personal and work. I mean, the
Yes,
calendar
yes,
has clear time blocks mapped out for personal time and for work time, and that is then
yes,
shared in your teams.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And it leads to a bit of a challenge. So I'll take my example.
yeah.
I have some team members who like to get started early, and I have some team members who like to get started in the evening. So
Mm,
then I found very quickly that my day was stretching to quite a bit to accommodate the flex on both sides.
mm,
And so what I've been doing is I start early, but then I take a very clear break in the afternoon,
mm.
where we can do calls such as this,
Yeah,
and then I start up again around 5.
right.
So it's I'm going half going by heritage. So I've now gotten into the rhythm of the afternoon siesta,
Siesta.
if you will.
Yeah, and so the traditional sign in at this time or clock in at this time and clock out at that time, that traditional schedule is no longer in play right now. Would you say that
No, no, it can never work. I
it
mean,
wouldn't work? Right.
there are so many different things that come in.
Yeah.
So I find it. I was never a fan of it even pre-lockdown. I'm
Right.
even less of a fan of it now.
No, yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that you have actually implemented with your teams is to be able to clock in and clock out as long as the work gets done, as long as you're productive. The clocking in and
Yes,
clocking out is
there
not
is no
the
clocking in and clocking
clocking
out.
out
It is just
is no longer the
it's just
prerogative.
these are the times I'm available to talk, and these are the times I'm not available to talk. I
Yeah,
assume that you're doing what you need to do to get the work done.
that okay. Yeah, and that is working, and that is a
Yeah,
model that works right now.
for us, yes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I cannot comment more broadly, but for us, at least, it is
For
working.
a consulting firm where you interact across industries, this is a model that works.
Yes,
It may not
yes.
work for an industry that does service, but it works for this industry specifically.
For this industry, though
Yeah.
we, if you look pre-lockdown, we were a very high-touch kind of service provider, right?
Okay.
So we would spend a lot of time with clients in their offices,
Right.
working with them in joint teams and things like that. But that has all also moved remote, and clients are also fine with it. So I haven't really seen a big challenge. So we always thought you need to be present with the client to deliver results. I think we're finding now actually both us and the client can deliver similar results more efficiently if we're remote.
Ah, very cool. Now, from a leadership perspective, what is one piece of advice you would give team managers who work with remote teams?
I think I talked about, I would give 2 pieces of advice. I think the
Sure.
first one is, just learn how to manage by outcomes. I think most of us do surrounds that. And I think it's important to think about that as
Okay, we lost you
model.
again.
And then the second is, look, it will create. No, I'm here.
No, there's something off about the connection again.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Okay. So, two pieces of advice.
Oh,
Advice one.
yeah.
Uh, so,
Requires discipline and thought up front. So, don't take it as, I've told you what to do, and then you'll get stuff perfectly in line with what you expect. I think it's important to, go to the next level of detail and be clear about what you what you want as outcomes, and invest the time and discipline to do that. That's one piece of advice. The second piece of advice I would say is, look, you will as a leader find yourself stretching longer than your teams. So find convenient times to take a break, that allows you not to get burnt out.
Yeah. Yeah. Very important. Very important. Well, thank you so much, Rahul, for this time.
Anytime. Happy to help, and so nice to talk to you again.
Yes, it is. We look forward to collaborating a little bit more, maybe on a couple
Okay.
more areas that you just discussed,
Sounds good.
especially with recruitment, remote recruitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's something I'm also figuring out now.
yeah. So thank you, Rahul.